But do you know what has to be true in order for the objection to even be raised? There has to be evil in the world. These acts have to be evil. They can't just be things that people disagree with, or things that people don't like, or things that some people wouldn't do in their culture, or it violates their cultural standard, because it seems that no matter what culture one lives in, when this kind of thing happens, that's evil. But morals are relative. There is no evil. If morals are relative, there's a lot of things you could say about the Cambodian children and Emmett Till. You could say, I don't like that. You could say, well, I wouldn't do that. I don't understand how they could do that. But one thing you could never say is you could never say that those actions were wicked. Because that option is not open to you if you do not believe in objective morality. There is nothing that is wicked. If morals are relative, what happened to Matthew Shepard might be sorrowful to some of you, might upset others. But frankly, I think there are probably a lot of people that didn't bother them at all. Does that mean it wasn't wrong? Well, it wasn't wrong if relativism is true. What happened to the Cambodians in that Holocaust, all that terrible mistreatment, that wasn't wrong if relativism is true. What happens to Palestinians isn't wrong. What happens to women who are captured in Russia and sold into slavery for sex, that isn't wrong. That's just whatever. Now, we might level some judgments from the position of our culture, but let's be honest. If we've just made this up among ourselves and this is the way we live, how do we condemn somebody else in a different culture that lives by a different standard? So here's the moral calculus. If there is no objective moral truth, then there is no objective evil. But there is evil. You've seen it. And the thing you see isn't just the action. The thing you see is the moral quality of the action. Therefore, objective moral truth exists. Because this kind of behavior is actually evil. There is real evil in the world. When people complain about evil regarding God, they're not talking nonsense. And we can wax eloquent in a discussion on moral relativism, yet complain when somebody cuts in line in front of us. And we say, you shouldn't do that. And what we don't say is, by the way, that's just my personal moral opinion. It has nothing to do with you. Just ignore me. Which would be the consistent response for the relativist. No, we actually think people did things wrong. This is why our language is littered with moral terms like right and wrong and good and bad, and virtues like mercy and forgiveness and kindness and tolerance and courage and rights. All of these notions are moral notions. And if in fact we have no objective moral obligations, then these turn out just to be conventions that can be dispensed with. No, I think we actually have moral obligations. Some things actually are evil. Some things people do really are good. Sure, moral decisions are hard. Yes, there are legitimate differences of opinion. However, when we teach our children that there are some things they should never do because they are wrong, vicious acts of intolerance, acts of terror, harm to innocent people, we're not lying to them. We are not confused. We are not simply passing on our cultural narrative. We are not tricked by our socially constructed views of reality. We are telling them the truth. Because some things are wrong. And some things are right. Because objective moral truths exist, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Is this on? Yes. I'm actually sure I probably don't need a microphone because I have a very, very loud voice. But I've moved down here because I want to be able to control my laptop, and unfortunately there isn't a cable long enough for me to control it from the platform. Can you see the projector? Is that okay? I thought it would be useful, I hope that's not too loud. Is that okay? I hope that this, a few PowerPoint slides would be useful, then you can read along with me as I chat. I'm not going to read the slides, that's the fundamental sin of any lecturer, but I'm going to talk about the slides as they come up. There aren't all that many. First of all, a couple of points. It's really important that I'm not denying evil. Of course, some things are wrong. I'm married. I'll be really pissed off if my wife has sex with someone other than me. I would think that what she'd done was wrong because we'd agreed to it in a marriage. Similarly, I think that people have rights. Of course I do. The question is, what makes it the case that I have these rights, and under what conditions do I have these rights, and under what conditions are acts wrong, some of them, and other acts right. So I think that it is the case that there is a system of morality that we can find. There are actually a variety of systems of morality that we can find that are well-grounded, reasonable, rationally based. But there isn't a single one. And that's really important, the difference between Greg and my views. Negatively, I think that if you affirm some kind of view of the kind that Greg wants to affirm, then what you're claiming when you dig deep into his views is a bunch of things which are simply not coherent. And that's a bit of a problem if you want to believe them. I want to talk about what morality is like, what the domain of morality is. For brevity, I'm going to talk about moral rules. That's just a quick way of talking about it. So I'm going to say an act is right if it's required by a reasonable, morally acceptable moral rule, wrong if it's forbidden, and so on and so forth. You have a right if there's a reasonable moral rule that affirms that right. The distribution is just if you've got an acceptable moral rule that justifies that distribution. Of course, all the work will be done in relation to the word acceptable. And crucially, not all rules are moral rules. There are rules adopted by clubs, there are rules of games, there are rules of etiquette, and there are rules to govern the relationships between human beings and gods, or God. But they've got nothing to do with morality. Moral rules are the rules which serve or ought to serve to regulate the relations between human beings and other animals, whether human or non-human. They serve or are designed to serve or ought to serve to regulate relations in order to ameliorate the human predicament. Moral rules are about amelioration of the human predicament or the non-human animal predicament. So I want to talk about what the human predicament is. We're all intermittently physically weak and sick. We've all been refusing to shake hands with one another because of fear of H1N1. This draws it to our attention vividly. We're all intermittently irrational, ignorant, rash, and stupid. We individually need food, shelter, and companionship, And as a group, we need sex.